on a podcast called Dub Jellison Podcast.
Hey, you know how it is, Dub. Hey,
when I was like, this is kind of real, like, holy shit.
Hey, all right, I was one of the chosen ones. Like, that's a career night. Like,
never have you failed if you played it right.
And I'm just blessed to.
Thought it was my time to
shine. I don't remember that. That's crazy.
I just liked it because when people keep forgetting, when you have low scoring games like this, it's one of two things. The offense sucks, which it did. Both offenses were horrible. Or the defense is playing well. The defense wasn't playing that well. It was just the offenses were that bad. But most of the time it's either both defenses are playing well or just both offenses just can't move the ball. That's what's really going on in that game. But I liked it because scenarios come up in games that wouldn't necessarily come up if it's a shootout. Like when you get a shootout, it's most of the time it's like big plays that happen when you have a shootout, like Rams and Chiefs game a couple years ago. But when you get games that are like that, those are the good ones. Even last night's game was pretty good because even though it was 29-30, it was still, there was only a couple big plays in there that actually really happened. You know, that actually tipped the game for the Chiefs. But most of the time, I just love those games because that's all we watched in film was always those type of games. If they were blowouts, we look at the big plays that they created and we just go on to the next whatever. But it's just so much teaching that you can do. I'm in coach mode, so that's why I'm. But even as a player, it's the same thing. I would look at it. If the game was interesting, if it was like 17-10, I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what's going to happen, what's going to unfold. But if it's 34-9, you're just like, whatever, they can't. Something happened early on in the game to make it down spiral. So I just tune myself out to stuff like that when they do happen. But I thought it was a good game last week.
So if you were like the Chiefs defense, you wouldn't really be watching last week's or Sunday's win for the Bills?
Say it again? You broke up real quick.
If you were the Chiefs defense and you're getting ready to play the Bills next week, would you not, like, obviously you'd watch a little bit of film from last week, their win over the Steelers, but would you not, like, completely focus on that? Would you focus more on, like, say, the Dolphins game? Like, when they played the Dolphins, I should say.
I would look at both because you look at a game where Miami was playing well on defense, like playing really good on defense and got after them. And then you look at a game against the Steelers where you think the Steelers is going to be like that boxing match because the Steelers always are known for their defense more so or less than their offense. And they get beat like that. It's like, hold on, how do they beat them? So you start looking, you don't look at the plays because you already know Josh Allen's great. You know, Stephon is great. Davis is great. You know, so you don't necessarily look at the offense that much because you know they're going to put up points. You want to see what the defense did wrong. When you have those games where there's big gaps, you tend to just look at the defense and just see where's the breakdown in communication. Are they doing the same things that we're doing? How do we correct their mistakes so we don't make the same mistakes? And that's what you look at. Now with the Dolphins-Bills game, you look at how much back and forth that was because it was tight. But then you start looking at what were the key points in the game. There's normally 4 or 5 key points in a game where you see, okay, this is where the momentum changed. Okay, this is how they kept the drive going. This is what they tried to scheme them up in this coverage. Those are the things that you look at when you see those close, tight games that are, I should have backtracked before I said that, but when they are shootouts sometimes and they go to those games where you're playing a lot of plays, there's just, you can look within to see the scenarios just to, like I said, help yourself out as a team so that when these scenarios do come up, because they always come up every single year, there's always something that's the same. And then you have one that's just far-fetched. And I guess this year, the far-fetched stuff is the roughing the passer with the quarterbacks. That's the most far-fetched. But other than that, those scenarios that do normally come up or the scenarios that are like few and far in between normally are things at the end of the game and a half where you have to be strategic, but everything else pretty much the same as far as like scheme, game plans. It's just finding out the mistakes so you can eliminate them so you don't make those same mistakes.
All right. I want to talk about roughing the passer, but first, end of half, end of game. You probably didn't watch. Actually, you might have because Purdue played Maryland.
Mm-hmm. I saw it
the other week and Purdue won, but they've been so bad at the end of halves. Purdue has. at the end of halves, end of games. Like Maryland went down, scored at the end of the game. I think they scored on a big play at the end of the half, and that's kind of how Purdue lost to Penn State. Is that more of, this is just for my own, like, out of my own curiosity, is that more on like coaching and scheme, or is that on the players?
It's coaching, because you got a kid, not say a kid, a player on defense doesn't look at time until it matters. But as a coach, you have to let them be aware of it too, because a kid's just out there and he just knows it's second down or it's third down, but they don't really know if it's 2 minute going in. Like, this is the situation. That's what we always used to do, or at least I would have my coaches do it for me. They'd always say, hey, look, guys, there's a minute 26 left. They got 2 timeouts. So they're going to try and move the ball. They're going to run their offense. So we have to be prepared. Or they have a minute 15. They got 1 timeout. Guys, they need a field goal. So we got to be, there's just different things that you go through during the week just to make sure you're ready. And that was one of the cases. I don't know how much time was left on the clock, but Maryland knew that. I think they were in cover 4. They had to have been in cover 4, because the way they ran that route, they ran with the tight end. So I think tight end wheeled out. They ran that post. They got the corner to, I guess, bite on it just enough to where he wasn't able to see that switcher. And that's what beats most defenses. Cover 4, cover 2, even cover 3 is that wheel, that little flat out to the wheel, because you always account for the curl flat guy, basically the guy that's dropping in that window for the curl windows or slant windows, to just only be looking at the quarterback, not even looking at the player and the route. And what I do as a coach, I tell my players, you got to put your head on a swivel, kind of feel the route. If he's going up and then he's going up the field, you got to grab him as a flat defender. And that's what didn't happen. So Maryland just schemed them up. But as a coach, you just got to know they're trying to score. And I think that Maryland was down. I think they were 17-10, it was 17-17, maybe a tie, I think, before half. And it was like a 50-yard play that they just schemed them up on. So as a coach, you just have to be aware of those scenarios. Like I said, we do it all the time. And bring up an example where it didn't happen and ended up biting us in the butt. It was Dallas, and I wasn't playing in this game, but Dallas, we were playing Kansas City. And I remember every week I was always anticipating and waiting for, let's do end of the half, end of the game situations, because that's all we did in Philly. Like twice a week, we were going through it. So in my mind, I already knew. Miami, the same thing. Just never did it in Dallas for whatever reason. So then it came up, and Kansas City ran some type of screen, like a quick pass to Tyreek. Then they had 5 guys up the field just blocking. Well, Dallas is telling everybody to get back, thinking he's just going to launch into the end zone, because that's what everybody thinks at the end of the half. So they got 7 guys that are 25 yards deep, and they have 1 corner that's up, and they got 4 guys rushing. So you let your guys rush, just dump it off. You think you're just going to get a little bit, but you have 5 guys out in front, then you got your big guys going. So now all of a sudden you got a convoy of people blocking for Tyreek Hill. He scores a touchdown. And it's only because we never go over the situations for you to prepare. You could have went sideline, basically meaning knowing that they have to try and get a touchdown. You put 1 guy in the middle of the field. You put 2 guys on the outside that are at 5 yards. You put another 2 guys that are at 10 yards, and you put another 2 guys that are at 15, and then you have your deep safety. So even if they do dump it off in the middle, you're converging, you're rallying inside. It becomes a net instead of let's just all play back. Let's just hope they don't throw it in the end zone and they gash you instead. So it's just, and that's one scenario. It just all depends on the clock, but it does come down to the coaching, because the coaches have to get you prepared for it, because there's just so much that goes on in the game that you don't even realize a player might not know. And if you actually go through the situation during the week, even if it's not exact, at least you'll say, all right, we went over something similar to this. This is what they might do. And if we call something, then you know your responsibilities. If we're calling cover 3, I got to get back. If I'm calling cover 4, I got to get back. And you just got to know what the situation is on offense and what they might do. And then just try and put it together so you have a safe plan to where you can make sure you either finish the game or you at least finish the half so you can go into the next half.
This is kind of related, but do you remember when the Dolphins won on that I forget who ended up scoring it, but that walk-off against the Patriots, and Gronk was the last dude?
He never went through that. They put Gronk in there because they thought it would be a Hail Mary play.
Yeah.
But everybody's practiced that. I guess Boise State play is what it is. It's just similar because Boise State used it against Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. Then they had some other trick plays, but they only put Gronk in there for the jump ball situation. Most teams I remember when we played Atlanta, we knew Julio was a jump ball guy. In Philly, Zach Ertz was our jump ball guy. Dallas, it was Dez. Miami, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Jason Taylor, or I think it was just Jason who was our jump ball guy. But that scenario, they weren't ready for it because you have Gronk in there who doesn't tackle, probably never play special teams, doesn't do anything. You have him in there and they scheme it up. But at the same time, too, it's all about leverage. Patriots lost leverage. They thought it was just going to be some type of, I guess they thought it was Hail Mary when they realized it wasn't. They're all trying to come up now. And you got guys just going different ways. It just schemed them up. So it's just one of those things. They didn't prepare the right way. And Miami saw that. They probably seen end of game situations, and they don't come up a whole lot because most teams don't really get in that position. If they do, they're not prepared for it. So you gotta kind of dig back some years to find stuff like that. And I guarantee that's what Miami did, or at least at the time Flores knew, hey, if Gronk's in the game, because he was there, so he knows the situation on defense because he coached the guy. He's like, look, you're in the game. If it's jump, you're in there for jump ball reasons. You ain't in there to tackle nobody. So him knowing that, he's like, all right, this is the play we're running. That's the only reason why it makes sense, because he already knows they probably have never gone over a situation like that in the, I guess, 9 years he had been there under Belichick. They probably never went through it. So he just knew that aspect of it that helped them actually win that game, which is probably, it still is actually, because they talk about it as probably one of the best plays in Dolphins history. And I love it because, shoot, it is. It helped them win the game.
It's crazy to think about the game within the game.
It's chess. That's what people don't realize. They just see the ball and just think, oh, he messed up. But they don't realize why that person might have messed up. They don't ever see the beginning of the play. And I saw it yesterday. It was Kansas City, LA, and or not LA, Las Vegas, sorry. And I remember just looking at the route, and I remember the situation, and in my mind, I was like, oh, he didn't get outside. Like, I just knew the corner messed up. I don't know why I knew he messed up, but I saw the route combination. I saw how the receiver was attacking. It was 17. I don't remember his name, but he's coming up, and I knew, because I couldn't see it anymore. Once it cut off on the screen, I was like, he's going outside because he's running too hard inside to influence the corner. And I just guess off experience, because it's happened to me, I just knew he was going back outside, but I knew why he was going back outside. It's 3rd and like 11. You're not trying to go in the middle of the field because the middle field is blanketed. So just keep your leverage. I knew they were running some type of robber coverage because I could just tell. I can't explain. I could just tell. And I just remember that, like, man, he shouldn't have gave up leverage. They ended up scoring a touchdown from that, but all he had to do was just stay outside leverage and he'd have been fine. But it is the game within the game. Those are the things, and we always talk about it. Just do your job at the end of the day. Coaches is what they're calling the play for the next play. They're not looking at the defense. They're more so focused on what the offense is doing so they can prepare for the next play. All you need to do is just your job. And then you come to the sideline, you let coach know, what is he doing? How is he releasing? Where is he lining up? Those things help you form the rest of that chess piece on the board, because it's all even before kickoff. It's just who is moving the correct pieces to call checkmate. And, checkmate could happen in the second quarter. Checkmate could happen in the third. Checkmate could happen in the first quarter. Checkmate could happen second left in the game. You never know. It's just, you have to always be prepared, and you always have to have a plan. But at the end of the day, you always have to constantly be understanding the next person's move and what they're trying to do to attack you. The one thing that on defense we're really keen on, or at least when I was playing, was how are they trying to set us up for the big play? Like a lot of teams will run digs, and all of a sudden they can go. You'll get slants, and all of a sudden you get sluggo. Then you get some type of, you might get a wheel, like Miami does this a lot. They do motion across with Tyreek, wheel route, and they try and get a linebacker on them or a safety, and then all of a sudden they'll switch it up. They'll have him come across in motion again, wheel stop. Then they'll have him come across in motion again. Now he'll run a big post, and you're like, hold up. I've been seeing wheels. I've been seeing wheel stop. Now, all right, he's probably going to run it again. And all of a sudden he hits you with the big play. It's just, you have to understand how they're trying to set you up to beat you. And if you can do that, you can start anticipating a lot from what an offense is doing, and vice versa with the defense. If you see them, if you get a beat on it, then you know where to throw opposite. If the blitz is coming left, you go right. It's just one of those things that just you start to feel the game, but you have to have that game plan first and then implement that game plan within the game to help you be successful.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. So like you mentioned earlier, the roughing the passer calls. Twitter was blowing up this weekend, social media, whatever. Everyone was pissed off about all the roughing calls, especially last night with Chris Jones strip sacking Derek Carr and getting called. What have you made of kind of what's happened, especially this past week after the Tua thing happened? They're trying to like overprotect the quarterbacks, I guess you could say. What have you made of these types of calls and kind of how the NFL's gone ever since you got in?
Yeah, it's the same story. Fans, they cry out, this is wrong, this is unfair. NFL, we'll do what we need to do for a couple of weeks just to shut you up. That's just what it is. Let's go ahead and let's call fouls that aren't really fouls, so you can say, oh yeah, they are protecting the quarterback a little bit better. At the end of the day, it was just an honest mistake. As far as the Dolphin staff and the players, they're making a big deal out of it because of that piece of it, but I don't think they should just go and just turn the entire league around into 7-on-7 because one guy decides to stay in and be, for lack of a better word, selfish, and it ends up costing him. Not one time have I heard Tua saying it was my fault. I was the one that wanted to come in. I was the one that wanted to be there for my teammates. It's just all been Miami. Let me put it on the medical staff. At some point in time, he's got to say something to let people know, all right, this is football. At the end of the day, I know what I was signing myself up for. I felt like I could power through it. Obviously, I did. The second week, the second game coming up, it was too fast of a turnaround. I wasn't expecting to get my head rang like that, but look, that's football. That's what you sign up for. That's what you get to pay the big bucks. If you're a quarterback, you know you're getting hit. At the end of the day, you got to stand in there and deliver. You have to be able to do that. If you scramble, it's fair game. If a D lineman gets you, he gets you. But the call against Tom Brady with Barrett, that was horrible because now you're telling defensive guys they can't rush as hard because you don't want them to hurt the quarterback. So what does that do? That slows them down now. That slows them down. What does that do for an offense? That speeds them up. Now, okay, I don't have to get worried about getting hit. If I do get hit, it's a penalty. So now you're going to start seeing this. It's going to become a theme because it happens to receivers when they change the PI rule. Receivers always the first thing. If they feel like they got grabbed, they're looking for a flag. This is always. It's a habit. So now a quarterback gets hit. He's going to be looking around. I need a flag. And it's just, you got to love tap. Like the one with Chris Jones. That was clearly, he got the ball out. He couldn't
had the
land.
ball.
He had it in the air. He couldn't land on both hands. He tried to, but then you have your teammate on the right side of him. You're already stripping. You're going to the left. Mechanics, and he's a big dude. He's like 6'7" or something like that. You can't expect somebody like that who's coming around the edge, strip sack, to try and land on his side, the opposite side, when he doesn't really know where he is on the field, but he's making a play. He's got the ball before Carr even goes to the ground, and you say roughing the passer. When he never hit him with his helmet, he didn't even really hit him. He grabbed him, stripped the ball, and you're changing the game too much. It's gotten to the point where it's not about being physical. It's just about entertainment, and you're not really protecting anybody in the game because you're making guys play hesitant, and that's when more injuries will begin to occur. Because now all of a sudden, a safety that wants to take a big shot can't take a big shot anymore. He has to pull off, and if he's pulling off, well, shoot. If he pulls off and this guy decides to duck his head and truck the safety, then all of a sudden the safety is going to get hurt. You're not going to care about the safety. You're going to care about this guy trucking somebody, put him on SportsCenter top 10. Look at what he did instead of look at the big hit that the safety did to draw out the ball and get it loose. So I just think the game's gotten too soft because of just that one situation of Tua. But at some point in time, you got to say enough is enough. But the NFL won't do that because the fans want to keep complaining. They want to have something to complain about. And the NFL is going to listen for 2-3 weeks. And then after, it'll just go away because they're not changing the protocols. The protocols are actually great. People keep trying to say that they're not. They're very good because I've been through it enough times to know how I need to be able to cheat the system not in a bad way. It's just they were that good at what they needed to do for their job when they were evaluating players that it eventually got to the point where I'm like, look, I can't just skate by this. You know, if I really got a problem, I got to sit out. If I don't have a problem, I'm going to try and figure out how I can get back out on the field so I can play for my teammates. But just as all of it's blown out of proportion, mainly because it was a Thursday night game where everybody got to see two on the ground unconscious.
Yeah, and there's obviously a line, like if helmet to helmet contact, yeah, throw the flag. But like, if you're gonna take 10 being the most violent hit, one being the dude just falls and you tap him. I mean, like the Grady Jarrett one was probably like a 3. I mean, it's not like he didn't suplex him, he didn't throw him down hard. They just spun out, basically.
Well, it's body mechanics. You can't tell a guy that's running a rush in, that's coming around the curve to try and sack Tom Brady and not throw him to the ground, because you don't know if he's grabbing him, he could still be up and throw the ball. At worst on offense, it's an incompletion, and it's not a sack. There's no yards lost. It's just, hey, we play another down. And that's the thing that sucks, because he's coming around. He's trying to get him on the ground. He ain't picking him up and slamming him, like you said. It was really, it's a basic tackle. That's all it is. And they call the flag. I just don't, there's no room for it, man. Like, I would see if the game was too physical and you had to peel back, but the game's not even as physical as it used to be anymore. And you're still trying to pull back on the game. And now it's not making any sense to me. I could understand you're trying to protect the quarterback and all this stuff, but quarterbacks are protected enough because they're getting paid a ton of money. So even if they do get hurt, so what? They're still going to be the starter next year or in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. Why not let somebody like a Cooper Rush come in and ball out? Why not have that as a story, you know? And yes, it's unfortunate Tua gets hurt, all this stuff, or even, you know, any quarterback that gets hurt from a hit or anything like that. Another guy comes in and he plays well. That's what the NFL is really about. It's next man up. And being able to have somebody else come in now and really make a name for himself. There's 31 other teams that are looking for guys to play well and advance their organization. And it just becomes a hindrance now when you're trying so hard to protect the quarterback that the entire game and the complexity of the game changes, and it's a ripple effect. Just what I just described, you're going to start losing views if you keep making these calls. So these refs got to start using common sense. They've been reffing for a while. You can't just decide to be a ref overnight. You have to really go through some stuff to test you to make sure that you can make those right calls, because they got to make calls fast. There's people boo refs, they cuss them out a lot, but those guys do a great job. They see the game the same way us players see the game. And for them, decisions, they're not making decisions being biased. They're making decisions off of what they see. And even though some guys might be fans of teams, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. They're not going to play favoritism. If it don't work, it don't work. And if they make the wrong calls, they're going to get suspended. That's what people don't understand. You get fined and suspended as a ref. So they're not out here trying to blatantly make wrong calls. But I can guarantee you, the NFL office talked to these refs and said, hey, look, because of that situation that happened with Tua, we got to protect all the quarterbacks, only the quarterbacks. They ain't worried about nothing else. All the other rules stay in place. But when it comes to QBs, we have to protect them extra, because people, fans, viewers, they want to see the quarterback throw the touchdowns. That's just how the game is gone. It's all about entertainment right now, but it just sucks that we're losing a piece of the game that makes the game exciting. And that's the physical part, the big hits, the turning momentum. It's not just about touchdowns. It's more than that. You know, who can be the more physical team? And when you have teams like the Baltimore Ravens, when you have teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, guys that are known for their defense more so than their offense, you start taking a piece of that away from them, their identity, it no longer becomes the same. And I think that's the problem with the NFL. They need to start telling the fans what they are going to do and what the fans are going to have to enjoy at the end of the day. They need to get back to their old ways, because I think that's just what's made the game so entertaining up to date now. So them conforming to every single party in the world just to continue to get views, it's not the same. Like I said, you're just going to dilute the game even more, and it's going to get to the point where you're going to have some new league or some new sport that's going to say, look, we're going to do our own rules and people are going to want to watch that more. But we're not there yet. We're probably about 15, 20 years out from that. But, you know, if they keep making this a trend, it's going to be faster than it's going to come faster than everybody anticipated.
Well, I know like golf is doing that now with Live Golf. They kind of broke away from the PGA Tour. I don't know if I see the NFL having any competitive, because you look at like the XFL, USFL, all those different leagues that have popped up. I mean, none of them have panned out at all, actually. And I don't like you mentioned, the NFL needs to go back to their old ways. I don't think they ever will. I think it's going to fizzle out. And then, because like even back when they changed the kickoffs, they made a bunch of rules with the kickoffs because guys were getting hurt there. And it's just been a steady progression of making the game, I don't know if I want to say softer, but like less physical, I guess.
It is very soft. But I honestly, and people probably going to hate it. People don't like me anyway. I don't care. But I think it just comes down to this. We have too many women involved in the men's sport in football. Like it's lost its luster because, and I would hate, actually I don't hate saying this. It's the month of October where it's always the breast cancer awareness. I think them implementing that into the NFL made the NFL softer over time, because it became more about what the moms think as far as protecting their kids. And I remember just listening and hearing videos of proper safety as far as tackling, and it would show moms teaching kids how to play football. It was no men on there. It was women teaching the kids. So that in effect starts the women moms care about their kids' safety and heads. So they're like, oh, this game is too dangerous. I don't want my son watching it. You know, there's too many guys getting injured. So what does the NFL do? Okay, let's start retailing it back a little bit. Let's start trying to make the game better so the moms can watch it, so the kids can watch it. And that's what it really realistically ended up happening. And that's why the game is the way it is now. And I just think that's what happens. Now you see it. You see women that are coaches now. It's just, I don't have a problem with it. You just see what's going on in the NFL now. It is really, at the point, I don't really feel like watching it that much because of the stuff that's going on. When I saw that with Chris Jones, I turned the game off. I looked on Instagram to see what the score was in the final game, because it's just not physical. I can't feel the game anymore. I'm just watching something. Guys just playing just to play. I could go down the street and go and watch somebody play football if that was the case and see who's scoring. When you take that physical aspect away from it, trying to conform to somebody just to please them, you'll always just be compromising, and you'll lose that lackluster feel of excitement before a game. Now, as far as these other leagues, eventually they will cover ground, because the NFL is underestimating these teams. They're underestimating these leagues and don't think that somebody will put enough money behind it. That's why these leagues don't really work. The USFL, the AAFL didn't work because they ran out of money. They didn't have enough money to sustain and have all the players, and that's why they folded. XFL, I don't think that's going to happen. USFL, they have to get smarter. They have to let them in their respective cities. They were all playing in Birmingham, Alabama. Nobody wants to go to Birmingham to watch a team play. Let the New York team play in New York. Let the New Jersey team play in New Jersey. Let the Houston team play in Houston. Let Birmingham play in Birmingham, and let people come and travel to them. The more money you put behind that league, I think it'll get better, because it's a direct reflection to the NFL. It's guys are getting signed from there. So why not continue to beef it up? But I don't know the deals behind doors, if they are with the NFL or not. But that's not my concern. I just know that if they have enough money, which I think the XFL does, the XFL will be able to compete in the next 10 years with the NFL, because of who's behind it, The Rock, and then who's going to get behind it too, and the other money people that he's probably already amassed just to get ready for this big push of XFL coming into town and being the big boy of the spring. They're going to take it over. Not a lot of people are going to want to go to USFL anymore after this, and then you'll just see it. You'll see how the XFL now becomes one of the sister leagues of football. Soccer has it. Soccer has a Premier League. Soccer has Serie A. They have La Liga. They got Bundesliga. They got big leagues that are playing within FIFA. So it's the same thing with the NFL. They'll take on that same identity eventually. They might all still be under the NFL. They probably won't all fall in NFL rules, but they'll get just as big to the point where an XFL style is different from an NFL style. A USFL style is different from an NFL style. A Canadian football style is different from an NFL style. You just see that, I think, in the next decade because of just how much of there's so much control over one league trying to control all the rules. People are going to get tired of that.
And like you mentioned with soccer, I mean, that's over in Europe for the most part. In America, the only two sports that I've really been able to like have multiple promotions or leagues or whatever is golf and combat sports, like the UFC, Bellator, ONE FC, and then boxing has like, I don't know how many belts you can win and all that stuff. But I don't know how long this Amazon deal is running, but if Jeff Bezos, whenever this gets done, if he goes, all right, I want to buy the XFL now, and he just throws bans at him, then I think that they could make a push within like a few years of him doing that.
That's true. Like I said, I don't know how long this Amazon deal is, but as long as he's with the NFL, ain't nobody gonna really compete with the NFL just because he's literally taken Thursday night and put it on Amazon. That's the magnitude of what Bezos has done, not the commissioner, him. He did that. So you're right. If he does decide to go to the XFL and say, hey, look, you know what? I'm gonna have it all sponsored by Amazon. It's gonna be a great competition because Bezos ain't running out of money at all. So why not? That's a great idea. You should talk to him. Talk to him and tell him, man.
Shit. I'll be asking for a lot more. That idea.
Why not?
Make me the commissioner.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, getting back to kind of the games from this past week, we already covered Bills obliterating the Steelers. We talked about the Chiefs a little bit. The Giants had a big win over in London over the Packers. Do you think that the Giants are going to be for real? Like by the time late December, early January rolls around, they're actually going to be in the playoffs?
I would think so. And just knowing the Giants of old, they've just been a team that made so many mistakes in the past and they could never recover. That was always the Giants' MO. Now you're seeing a different team. You're seeing a team that decently moving the ball on offense. Daniel Jones is still learning. He's still young. It's the first year in the system with Dayball. Dayball's system is once you get it, you get it. He was with us in Miami, and it was hard for Chad Henne and those guys, Matt Moore, to get it until probably week 8 or 9 of the season. And that's when stuff started rolling. So the fact that they're 4-1 with this offense right now, and they haven't even really opened it up yet because they still are looking for a steady receiver because they ain't got any really right now, especially with Shepard out. They've been relying so much on Saquon, and he's been doing a great job. He looks like the old self, but that defense is playing well. They got Thibodeau that's balling again. He's back, and he's showing that he's the guy. And I think that's what's helping them out is the fact that they are not making the same mistakes that they used to, and they're finding a way to actually compete and win those games. Green Bay is a good team, and the fact that you can do that to Aaron Rodgers, especially in the last 2 plays for him on offense, do that on 3rd and 4th down, that's impressive. They're a good 4-1 team, and I think the NFC East is back, man. You got the Eagles that are 5-0. You got Dallas is 4-1, and now you got the Giants that's in there. So it's competitive. Yeah, I can't wait to see what's going to happen down the stretch between Dallas and Philly, and then Philly and New York and Dallas, even Washington. Washington can mess somebody up, even though they're 1-4. They can still ruin somebody's plans. I've seen that, and I've had it happen to us before. So I can tell you, just because they're 1-4 doesn't mean they're not good. The only thing that sucks about their team is their quarterback, and I hate that because Carson is a great player. It's just he makes dumb decisions, man. And if he didn't make those decisions, it'd probably be different. Probably seen him at 3-2 maybe. But at the end of the day, I think the Giants are for real. They just got to continue this. Let's not crown them right now and say they're great. They deserve to be one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. No, because the season is still early. People got to understand. First 5-6 weeks of the season, you're just trying to figure it out still because you don't have that whole preseason that you used to. So the first 4 games, you're really just trying to figure out your team as far as your identity. The ones that get out there fast, that you start having hope for what you implemented during the spring, during the fall camps, and even in preseason is still going true. So you're going to keep riding that wave. That's what New York's doing. Them is just sustaining it. If they can continue to sustain it come December, when those big games count, when you have, when you're traveling to when you got to go to Philly, when you got to go to Washington, those are the things that when it's on the line, you guys are tied in the division. Whoever wins this basically gets to go. I don't care if you're the 5th seed, 6th seed, 7th seed. I don't care. You win the division, you get to go to the playoffs. So I think if they understand that, which I think they do, and not just think, oh, we won the Super Bowl because we're 4-1 right now. Let's not think that way. Let's continue to do this. And when we get into November, December, let's keep this momentum going. There might be a little bit of dip this month, but overall, they've gotten ahead more. They're further ahead than they used to be in the past. And I think that's the best thing for them. They just need somebody on the outside that's going to be able to be that security blanket for Daniel Jones. Because once teams start understanding Saquon is back, which I don't think people have really realized he is back, they're going to start blitzing, packing the box. They're going to start keying on him. And they're going to just say, hey, look, beat us outside. We know you have nobody. Try and beat us outside. I know they got guys, but you have to show me you have guys, basically from a defensive coordinator standpoint. And that's what's going to end up happening coming down the stretch. I know for a fact when they play Philly, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, their wide receiver 1 last week was like David Sills. Do you even know who that is?
No, I don't. I know Galladay, he got benched, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. When your guy you spent $7 million on, he's benched.
That's one of the weirdest stories in the NFL over the last few years.
I can just tell you it's about production. He's probably whatever he did last year, he's thinking he can get away with it again this year. Because he's the multi-million-dollar man, he's thinking he's not going to get benched. Dayball don't care. I'm telling you, that man don't care how much money you make. If you're not producing, you're on the bench. His mentality's been like that ever since I've gotten to know him. He does not care. And then when he was, I believe he was with the Patriots for a couple of years. I believe after he was with Miami, I can't remember exactly, but it's the same mentality as the Patriots. It's like, look, we don't care who you are, and he's bringing that mentality to New York. And I think that's the same thing. People are looking at it as weird, but I look at it as if you're not producing, you're not going to play, and we're still going to win games without you. That's the point he's proving right now, and I think that's great because a lot of players have egos in this league, and if you can just humble him a little bit, hopefully with him, he starts to see that I need to get my act in gear and I need to try and produce so we can continue this streak and I can be a part of the win. Because if you're not, they're just going to trade you. Basically, at the end of the day, trade deadline's coming up pretty soon, so they might be looking for people. That's probably why they're sitting them out. They don't want them to get hurt. Probably trade them back to Detroit. Who knows? Detroit's averaging 33 points a game. They're still losing. They might need them. You never know. So we'll see.
Yeah, I pulled up his stats. He had 500 yards, no touchdowns last year. And then in 2020, I want to say he got hurt, but he only had 300 yards that year.
Yeah,
so he hasn't produced since 2019 when he had almost 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns.
Who was with him? I believe Marvin Jones was on the opposite side of him.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So when you got a guy that's getting doubled, you're singled, you can do that. Now when you're the guy and they think you're the guy, they double you or they put their best guy on you and you ain't beating them, you're not the guy. That's just what it is. You got to look at those things. And I believe it or not, I think Marvin Jones was still there. His last year he was there, or a year before he was supposed to go. He left in 2021, I think. So he was the main reason why he had all that success. Because if Stafford's looking and Marvin Jones is covered, who's your next guy? Him. You just do that. That's a simple common sense. If my guy's getting double, let me go to the other guy. And he made a name for himself. Hey, you do what you need to do, man. At the end of the day, he got paid. I'm not mad about a guy getting paid at the end of the day. It's just go out and produce, man. Don't think you made it. Just go out and keep being the guy. You have a lot of pressure on yourself to produce. Obviously, it's not going your way. You just got to keep fighting through it so you can be that guy. It happens to everybody. Everybody that signs a deal in the offseason, there's just so much pressure on you to just be more than what you were at your former team. And it takes time for you to get right. And this is second head coach now in 2 years. He's just got to get used to it. He's got to get going again. But the onus is on him to be a part of this team and be productive again. And give them their money's worth.
Now, someone that relatively happened to that used to play for the Giants was back in the building a couple weeks ago. OBJ, if he can get back within the next month, I think he'd be a good fit with the Giants.
Yeah, he'll be dangerous, man. He'll be dangerous. They don't appreciate the Odell that they had at the time with the Giants when he was there. I don't know if it would be the same as a reunion. I don't think it will. But when he was there, Jesus, he was on fire. He was like, before Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, those guys doing all that stuff, it was him, and he was doing it well. He was the entire offense at one point with the Giants. And if he does go back there, it'll be great for him. It'll give one thing it does on the defense. It just makes you key on one guy that can change the entire game. And it does change the complexity of an offense because now you have that threat that can really alter a game or alter your coverage or alter your game plan, because all you got to do is really throw it to him and he does the rest. You know, it's not about a quarterback. You or I could be out there and give and throw a hitch to Odell or throw a fade. He'll do the rest, or throw a slant and just let him do it. So I think if they do sign him, hopefully he's healthy, hopefully he's right, but he will definitely change the landscape of the entire NFC East, at least when he signs. And when he plays is a completely different story, but we all know Odell and what he brings to the table and what type of player he is. So it's just about us knowing, well, not us because I'm not playing, but it's just about the Giants understanding if this is something they want to do, which I think they would need to do it because they need somebody else. They need somebody in that building that has been there, done that, on that team, but also too, people keep forgetting he won a Super Bowl. And if he didn't tear his ACL, he'd probably be the MVP because that drive that he had, you weren't stopping him. Like there was Cincinnati didn't have an answer for him. I don't care what corner they had lined up, he was eating them alive. And if he didn't get hurt, he would just continue that. He's the Odell of old. Actually, no, he's a better version of what he used to be when he was with the Giants. I just think he's more mature. He understands routes. He's not just using his athleticism. He is actually thinking and making the game slow down. So if they do sign him, be interesting. Be very interesting in that NFC East.
I don't know if he will. I still feel like he's going to end up in like Kansas City or Green Bay.
If he ends up in Kansas City, that's dang. You're just at this point, Andy Reid's just having fun. If you have another guy like him that just comes in and does that, you ain't gonna be able to stop him. Like you're averaging close to 30. I mean, they scored 30 without him last night. So imagine you have him now. You have MVS, Marquez, and then you got Juju, then you got Hilaire, and then you got Travis Kelce. I mean, shoot, come on, man. There's you either got to play zone or you just play man and just pray to God that your rush gets there, because from what I saw, they weren't really getting there with Mahomes. I got at him early in the first, but once he figures it out, Andy Reid figures it out, Bieniemy figures it out, you got 3 guys looking at a defense. Actually 4, because you got Patrick Mahomes looking at the defense. You got Andy Reid and Bieniemy in his ear telling him what they ran, what we need to run next. And they already got 2 plays. That's what people don't realize about Kansas City's offense. They have 2 plays. And if you go back and you hear the game again, when they start going fast, he's always saying, play 2, play 2. He's done that for the last 3 years. So they're always calling another play. So they already know, okay, these are 2 plays we want to run against this defense. They're going to stay in it because of what we're in, and let's just run it. Then they give them 2 more plays. So they're always a play ahead. That's what people don't understand. So now you bring another component of the game in there that changes your coverage. They're just playing mad, like really on the game. They're just playing mad now, and he would definitely change the complexion. But I don't know. I don't see him going there though. I see him going to a competitive team. But I've been hearing Cleveland too. I've been hearing that. I heard Cleveland, man. He might be back there. And Deshaun is there, so you never know. Deshaun, Amari Cooper, and him, we'll see.
And they'd probably be coming back around the same time, I'd have to imagine, him and Deshaun.
Yeah, Deshaun just got back in the building this week is when he's in, but he can't play for 3 weeks, I think?
Till week 11.
Oh, so it's like 4 weeks. And
I think it might be week 13, actually, because he got suspended 11 games, but they have a bye.
That's true. All I know is he's playing the Texans. So whenever that comes, it's just a coincidence he's playing his former team. not at all. But he's playing them, so I don't know if it's week probably 12 when he comes right back. I think so. So it's week 12. But if they can get him before week 12, shoot, look out, league, because with Brissett, they're doing enough. I mean, it was a shootout yesterday with LA. It was a good game. If people didn't watch it, they were going back and forth. It's ultimately the running game that got them. But just imagine if you had Deshaun with him and that offense is getting better. You never know, man. There's a whole bunch of possibilities with Odell, but ultimately comes down to what his fit is. Obviously, he's taking his time. He's not in a rush to do it because he just won a Super Bowl. That's what he's always wanted to do. He's always wanted to accomplish, and he got that. He's just now trying to see what's the best fit for him. So he's being selfish in that aspect, and I respect it. So whatever the fit is for him and whatever he feels comfortable with, wherever he goes, you're going to know he's going there because he believes that they can get back to the Super Bowl.
If you went to Cleveland, I mean, you look at those weapons with Amari, OBJ, Njoku. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good backup guy.
People forget about him. He played well last year too.
And then we didn't even mention Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Ooh.
Probably the best 1-2 out of the backfield in the league.
They're pretty. You know what? You're right. You're right. You just can't. There's nothing you can really do with that. There's nothing. But
insane.
They are good. You're right. You're right. That's a good one right there. I can't even combat that. That's pretty good.
I mean, they just need to stay afloat, stay around 5. I think they need to be at least 500 when Deshaun gets back. Well, it obviously depends on what the Ravens and Bengals kind of do in that division. Stay within striking distance.
I mean, they're beating each other up. Cincinnati's not the same team. They figured out that, hey, look, their O-line's not as good. Let's just blitz them. Let's see if Joe Burrow is going to get this thing out or he's going to look for his number one target because they haven't been the same type of offense they used to be. Well, it's young, but last year they're not the same just team that they were. These big plays that they needed when they got them. It seemed like every single week, Jamar Chase is scoring a 70-yard touchdown. And they don't have that same explosiveness that they used to have from last year. But you're right. If Cleveland can just stay afloat, I think stay above 500, beat the Ravens, beat the Steelers, go ahead. Even Cincinnati, if they can just make it close enough to where they can pull it out and let Deshaun come back, get that run going into the playoffs, and they do add Odell, then shoot. Browns could be doing something, man. You never know. You really never know. It's just so early to tell right now, man. It's just, the teams that have caught fire and they're rolling, they'll be in the playoffs. It's rare that you see a team that catches fire and then fizzles out during the end of the season. I haven't seen too many like that. The last one, I believe, that did something major like that was probably the Buffalo Bills, where they started 7-0 and then they went 7-9 the entire, like they lost 9 straight. It was the weirdest thing, but you don't see that anymore. Philly, yes, they're on fire. They're going to stay that way because they're just a complete team. Dallas are trying to figure it out, but they're playing well without Cooper Rush. They're playing well without Dak, and they got Cooper Rush in there. And then you just start looking at just sprinkles of other teams around, like Baltimore right now. Baltimore, they won. They escaped a nail biter, but at the end of the day, he's still Lamar, but the rest of the team isn't playing as well. You look at the Steelers. Steelers are up and down. They just quarterback change. They're probably going to trade Trubisky because they thought he would be the guy. He's not. Pickett is young. He's a rookie, so that's going to come with its own growing pains. Cincinnati. Their O-line is not the same. You just start going around the league. You can start looking at teams that just either catching fire or they're not. And you look at those teams and come November, late December, all right, these are the same teams that started off hot early. They've sustained that momentum going into the playoffs. Because if you just hear coaches, it's like, look, we just got to win the month. Win the month of November, win the month of December. Meaning just go 4-0. Let's just win one game at a time to set us up for the playoffs. Yeah, we might have messed up the first half of the season, but that's okay. As long as we're still in it, we're still above 500 or at 500, we still have a chance. And that's what you really want. You don't crown somebody because they won 5 games and they're 5-0 or 4-1, because you can easily be 5-0 and then turn around and lose 4 straight. Now you're 5-4 and you're fighting for a wild card spot. And it's just what it becomes.
Yeah, and it's not as dramatic as like what you said with the Bills, but the Cardinals have kind of had that reputation of starting fast, especially last year and the year before. They started fast and then kind of limped to the finish line.
Oh yeah, they were, I believe, 5-0, and then they had injuries. That was what killed them. JJ Watt, I think, missed some time. Kyler Murray's ankle, he missed time.
D-Hop.
D-Hop, he what was it again with D-Hop? Was it COVID? It was COVID with him.
I don't know. Last year or the year before?
It was last year. It was COVID.
It might have been. I don't remember.
Yeah, but they had pieces that were key pieces that they weren't able to have towards the end of the season. Even when Kyler came back, his production dipped. So at the end of the day, like you said, it's one of those things that if a team's able to keep that momentum and keep it going enough to where once they get to the playoffs, they feel refreshed, not limping towards the finish line. Because Arizona did do that last year when they played LA. The team that they were supposed to be, like everybody thought they were going to be this high-powered offense coming in and playing against LA. They weren't even that. I think the first drive was a safety or a pick six or something. But it's just one of those things. Who can sustain the best momentum at the right time going into the playoffs? That's all anybody cares about. Nobody cares about the first game of the season or September. They care about what's going on at the end of November and December.
Now, for a team, I know we talked about the Giants, the other New York team, the New York Football Jets. They're getting on a little roll right now, 3-2. I mean, that's I think that's different from the Giants a little bit. But do you think the same could be said of them, of trying to get that momentum? And I mean, they're playing well, but they need to sustain it.
Well, for them, they're different from, I think, the Giants because they're so young. And the fact that you have young guys that are producing the way they are now, and they're figuring it out. That's the thing that a coach enjoys, is when you have young guys that are starting to understand how to win. And they played very well against Miami. I know Miami had the third string quarterback in. That doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you beat a Miami team that everybody thought is ready to go to the playoffs if Tua was in there. And they beat them. And they had that win against the Browns where they came back and won. Those are the things that I'm talking about as far as learning how to win, because those things help you later on in the season. And when it's crunch time and you might be playing for the division again, or playing, who knows who you might be playing. Let's just say they're playing the Bills for the division, and they learn how to beat them. That's a confidence booster. And as a young guy, if you get that confidence early, that helps you out playing. I don't care who you play. When you get to the playoffs, it's open season. And if you've known how to play well in conditions and you know how to overcome certain situations and come out on top, that helps you out when it gets hot and bothered, when the game's on the line and you see it. They're having fun out there. They're understanding that, look, we're young, but that doesn't matter because we're still going to be able to compete and win a game. And I think they needed some more credit. They do, because this has been a long time coming. I know Jets fans, they've wanted this for a long time. As a matter of fact, he followed me and I just followed him. Fireman Ed. I don't know if people know who Fireman Ed is, but he's the guy that has a firefighter hat. He sits in the end zone. He used to cuss me out. That was a kickoff. I could hear him. I'm just going to say he cussed me out. He was the loudest guy I could hear. I remember turning around one time and it's like, bam, he's right there in my face. But it's guys like him who've been devoted fans for so many years. And you got a guy like Gary Vee, who's been a devoted Jets fan for years. And all they have right now to their name is Joe Namath. And that's it. That's what they really got, So the fact that they are starting to play well and they're getting people behind them and that support, and the guys are learning how to do this the right way, I think that's one of the teams that you could see competing really for a spot in the playoffs. Somebody's going to get a bye, obviously. I don't know who that's going to be, but there's going to be 7 other teams that are going to compete for a spot. And I think the Jets will be one of those teams coming out of the AFC East. And I think all they got to do is beat the Patriots. Just make sure you can beat them. The Patriots looked good too yesterday, but it was the Lions. But if they can just get one of them from them, I feel like in a division, if you can win 3 or 4, you're going to win the division because you play 6 division games. So if you can get 4 of those, you finish 2 in the division, but a good enough record will get you in the playoffs. So I think they have an opportunity to do that.
You know what? I know they're not the same team, and you might disagree, but they give me the 2021 Bengals vibes in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. They do. Zach Wilson Well,
less of like how they win games and things like that, but just like some of the things you talked about, the little bit of buzz surrounding them right now. I mean, they're having their first good year in 10 years probably.
yeah, 10, 12 years since Mark Sanchez when they went to the AFC Championship 12 years ago. Yeah.
You got Zach Wilson coming into his second year. He could grow into something. I'm not saying that they're going to go to the Super Bowl like the Bengals, but like if they can get a wild card spot and then maybe even win a playoff game.
I think that's actually possible. With Salah just actually being a defensive-minded guy, he can help them get over that hump. At least once they get to the playoffs, I think defense will just take over. He knows Zach Wilson's not going to be the one to win the game unless he needs to be that guy, but he doesn't want to put it in his hands. He'd much rather put it in the defense's hands, and the defense played well. Actually, yesterday, they got Sauce Gardner involved a little bit in the corner blitz. He had a pick. So I think the more they use him and get him involved and being able, hopefully towards the end of the season, he's able to shut a side of the field down and he gets that confidence, they'll start opening up the playbook because he was a guy that was at San Fran. What did San Fran do when he was there? They went to the Super Bowl, did they? So he'd be able to do that same thing, I think. He's just got to get the right pieces in place to make sure that when that time comes in the playoffs, it's more on the defense's back than it is the offense to win the game.
Now we've kind of talked about like the hot starts and the good starts. Which struggling team, maybe that's like 2-3 or even 1-4, like the Raiders, for example, has the best chance to turn things around?
It's going to be tough for the Raiders because of that division. I mean, LA pulled one out. Obviously, the Chiefs just pulled theirs out. It just becomes tough, man. When you're in a division like that that's so competitive, the wins, I don't care if you're playing a division team or not, you got to get the wins. And especially when you're playing in the division, you don't want to fall too far behind. And unfortunately, the Raiders are 1-4 right now. So I don't really see them coming back unless they beat LA, they beat Denver. And Denver's not even that good of a team, and they were struggling with Denver. So I just think that for them, it's going to come down to last 6 weeks of the season. They're just going to have to pull out. They've had all this hype. Raiders haven't had this much hype in quite some time. Even when they hired John Gruden a couple years ago, they never really had the hype to where, all right, we got weapons on offense, we got a decent defense. We got an offensive-minded coach that's going to help our quarterback turn the corner. You haven't really seen that yet. I mean, they came out the gates pretty well against Kansas City last night. They went for it on that fourth down, got the touchdown. But other than that, if you're not getting wins, nobody's going to really talk about that come playoff time. But you almost did. So I just think for them, they got to try and find some way to try to just turn it around, knowing that they only lost by a point to a Kansas City team that's got a high-powered offense. Should give them some type of confidence, but I just don't really see it. Another team that I kind of see starting to get it back going and people aren't talking about is the Texans. The Texans came to Jacksonville, a Jacksonville team that kind of high note. They played well. They could have won against Philly, but they made too many mistakes. They were up 14-0, and then they just steamrolled. And then, Houston came in there and they beat them 16-3, I think it was, and they ran the ball well. People aren't giving Lovie Smith enough credit in what he's trying to do down there. Lovie's not a guy that very outspoken. He's just a guy that's quiet. He has a quiet demeanor, and his team takes on that personality. So I can kind of see them coming back, or at least trying to squeak in, at least in the AFC, if they're not too careful, because that AFC is still wide open. Tennessee is decent there, but those are the only real teams I kind of see that are starting to figure it out now. Past week 4. They understand their difficulties, some of their limitations that they need to work on to get better. But overall, I would say those are the two teams I could see, at least on the AFC side, that'll be able to do something. Now, as far as the NFC, that's a little bit more difficult because the NFC is like you could get in being, or at least back in the day, you can get in being 9-7, i.e. Carolina Panthers, or 6-10 and get in, and Arizona's 10-6 and then get in the playoffs. Or our Philly team, we were 10-6 and Arizona gets in and they're 9-7. It's just one of those things where you never really know until the last couple weeks of the season. But if I had to really, I'm just trying to think right now, which teams, who you got?
Well, right. I was thinking of like some teams that maybe were contenders last year, kind of struggling out the gates. So like I had Rams, Bengals, Raiders, Saints, Cardinals, Colts, Broncos, Patriots, Browns. It's just like my list of who is like maybe not struggling like as bad as the Raiders are, but still middle and like 2 and 3.
2 and 3,
yeah.
Okay. The teams that are trying to get to 500 and hopefully get over that hump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you saw it yesterday, St. Louis and Seattle. I thought that was a pretty decent game. Obviously, Jameis isn't playing right now, and they're figuring out how to win without him. The thing with the Saints is once you lose your starting quarterback, it's kind of a drop off. And in the past, the Saints would have that drop off in production from both sides of the ball because the offense is what makes the whole team go. And when you don't have that, it hinders them. And Taysom Hill had a great game yesterday. He's back to what he was. He's not a true quarterback. He's just an athlete. And you see a team like that played against a great team in Seattle who's always known for their defense, and they're sitting there gashing them. Those are the things that I necessarily look at. Now, when you look at a Seattle team, they've just always been known to just thug it out until the end. Mm-hmm. That's just them. We know their identity. We can never count Seattle out until they're out. So I just say they're one of the toss-ups until you see week 16, week 17. Carolina's not. They can't rebound. They fired Matt Rule. I didn't think he was fit to be the coach in the first place. I just think he was the only available option, so they had to go with him. But that team is not. They're not that good. Them putting their trust in Baker Mayfield to try and get them over the hump they were struggling anyway before him when they had Sam Darnold. I don't think bringing Baker was going to change that at all whatsoever. And you're seeing it too. So I don't see them making it whatsoever. Tampa Bay got Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's going to make sure that they are fine. They looked good yesterday too. So I wouldn't even, with all the hoopla stuff surrounding his divorce and saying Tom lost a step or he shouldn't have came back. I think people just like talking about Tom to see how he's going to react. And Tom's he's always been that guy that'll prove you wrong. And that's what's going to end up happening. They'll get on their route and they'll do what they need to do. And as far as out in the West, it'll just be, like I said, it'll be tough. Like, even though San Fran's playing well, they lost their starting corner, Mosley, out for the year. So we'll see how that works. Most of the time when you lose a guy that he had a pick six, it's starting to get production. You put a young guy in, teams know that. So they start kind of going at it. But you got Jimmy G. It's his offense, and they feel comfortable with him out there. So as long as the offense is playing well, they can mask that. Seattle's just got it. They're Seattle, like I said. Arizona, we already talked about them. But as far as the NFC, that's what I see. The NFC is always that week 15, 16, 17. That's when you really understand who might win the division. Mm-hmm. Who's in the wild card spot or who's playing to get into a game. That's just how it's been. AFC, you might have that one team like it was last year. It was the Colts. They had to play to win and get in, and they didn't win. So we'll see. Like I said, it's early in the season still. There's a lot of teams that are 2 and 3. They could go either way. They can go from 2 and 3, and now all of a sudden they're 4 and 10. And you're like, oh snap, I didn't see that coming. Or a team that's 2 and 3, and now all of a sudden they're 10 and 4. And you're like, wow, these guys went on a run. Mm-hmm. It's just who's hitting it at the right time, who decides it at the right time. You could have been a team that just lost at 2 and 3, but then you just go on a route. It's just the nature of the game, who plays, how you play, and who hits thunder at the right time. Once you hit it, man, it just becomes dangerous. It's deadly. And I can attest to it. When I was playing, Miami were 0-7. People were like, Alabama could beat us. That's what literally people were saying. And then all of a sudden, something clicked in us. And then we won 6 straight, and people was like, hold up now. Like, Miami can go to the playoffs. And we just caught fire at the right time. It's just those things that happen. And people just can't get too on board just yet. Let's see how this plays out in October. And then going into November, you really start to see the playoff picture and where teams are, which teams are at 500, which teams are below 500 that could probably sneak in, and probably have the same conversation again in a couple weeks. But I think the ones we were talking about now, we'll see it start playing out the right way, and we'll probably be talking about the same teams and see how they were to where they are now.
No doubt. And I'm going to wrap things up here shortly. But before that, game picks for a few of the key matchups. I'm gonna save Bills and Chiefs for last.
All
But
right.
first we're gonna go Cowboys Eagles.
Ooh, I got Eagles, man. I got Eagles. It just you're putting a lot of pressure on Cooper Rush to play, and then you also have the speculation of Dak probably coming back because he came back in practice, or I guess yesterday. So that plays into it. But Philly's they're playing too well. They're learning how to win games. If you're 5-0, it's no accident. Especially if you watch the games that Philly has played. They came back against Jacksonville. They came back against Arizona, even though they weren't down by much. They learned how to finish the drive and close out the game. Obviously, field goal missed by Arizona, but I got Philly. Dallas, just Cooper Rush. Cooper hadn't seen a defense like this yet. I mean, I know they thugged it out against they played the Rams, but the Rams struggling. They're up and down a lot. They've been like that since the first week. So I just think, and it's a rivalry game. It's a game that they hate each other. Like they truly, truly hate each other. And I think it's in Philly, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And it's a Sunday night game too.
Mm.
Oh yeah, no, that's Philly all day, man. It's Philly. Unless they can get the running game going and take that pressure off of Cooper to not throw the ball, then they'll be okay. But you got Fletcher in the middle, and you got Reddick on the outside. You got BG. People haven't realized BG's now been playing tackle a lot more. Brandon Graham. So interiorly, you're not doing much on that defense. And on the outside, you got Slay. You got Slay. At the end of the day, big play Slay. He's going to be on CeeDee Lamb. And you got to make Michael Gallup beat you. And those other corners, safeties, Epps, Maddox, James Bradbury, he was a Pro Bowler too. So you got people forget that back end is probably the best they've been in years. They're playing very well and they're doing it at the right time. So I got Philly.
I'm rolling with Philly too. I just think, I mean, Cooper Rush going 5-0.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's too good to be true.
If he's 5-0, he's got to go to another team. Like somebody's going to want to pick him up. That's just what's going to happen.
I think their magic runs out. I still think the Cowboys will be good, but I got the Eagles. Next, which, I mean, at the beginning of the year, nobody would have thought this would be a good game, but Ravens Giants.
Man. Yeah, Ravens. I just think, just from watching the game on Sunday, Lamar's Lamar, man. Lamar's going to find a way. He's going to get it right. I think they just have a plethora of guys that they can get the ball to. And Dobbs, obviously, he's back. He's running the ball well, but the pressure's on Lamar to produce, and he's been doing that well, very well. He's put the team on his back, and he's not getting enough credit because of the whole contract situation, but he's just doing business as usual. He's trying to make sure that they're winning, and they love games like that. You saw what happened. They came down to a field goal. They don't mind it coming down to a field goal because they got a guy that's almost automatic. So I think if the defense can play well, slow Saquon down, I think that they'll pull it out. I just see it that way because right now Giants only have one guy on offense that's making it work.
Yeah, I think similar to the Cowboys, I think the Giants' magic kind of runs out a little bit this week. I'm rolling with the Ravens too. Next, Packers Jets.
Ooh, is it in Lambeau?
Might be in New York.
I just see it. Yeah, if it might.
Oh, it's in Lambeau.
Yeah, Green Bay. Just I've never seen Aaron really get on a losing streak. I don't think he's really been on a losing streak since 2000 when he first took over. After Brett Favre, where I think the most he lost was like 3 or 4 straight when he was there his first time starting. I don't see him, especially the game that just passed, could have won it, but it's on Aaron. So Aaron knows it's on him, and he knows right now I got to get it going, and he's going to want to get it going early against them. He's going to test them out. He's going to want to see. And the thing I know about Aaron is this: once he sees something, he's going after it. He's not going to stop. And it's like having 2 offensive coordinators out there. It's going to be a battle of the minds. Matt LaFleur, Salah, and Aaron Rodgers. It's just going to be that battle. It's not even going to be a battle of teams. It's a battle of minds and who can dissect who and figure out where the big plays are. So I got Green Bay.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. And then finally, Bills and Chiefs.
A rematch of last year, AFC Championship. It's tough because both teams are playing well on offense. Like the thing about it is this: The Bills, the only way they can play well is if they get the big play consistently. They're not a team that's just, let's continue to move the ball down the field methodically. Let's get 15, let's get 20, let's get 30 to move this offense. When you don't have that, or if you can eliminate that, which I don't think the Chiefs will because their defense they got young guys back there that haven't learned it completely yet. But if you can at least slow that big play down where you can stop Stephon, you can stop that running game, you can keep Josh Allen in the pocket and force him to try and look at the rush more so than look downfield. He's a big dude, so he's always looking downfield. And I think Davis, receiver number 13, I think his yards per catch average has to go. It was 32 yards a catch. That means he's running nothing but deep post. Now it's got to be 40. So that means he's the deep guy. Who's your short guy? It's Stephon. He's always going to be your dig guy, your curl guy, your overs. You got to now start thinking about, are we going to play zone or are we going to play man? How are we going to do this? And now on the other side of the ball, you have the Kansas City Chiefs who they are slower now. They are trying to, and not how they used to be, where it was always, we're getting the big play out of Mahomes. We're getting the big play out of Tyreek Hill. They're still trying to figure out on offense, who is that guy that can get them to that point again. Obviously, Travis Kelce played well yesterday, but you had 4 receptions, 26 yards, and you had 4 touchdowns, but you have most of your touchdowns in the red zone. So it's not like he's killing the defense with yards. It's more so he's a possession guy, and that's fine. But for them, it's just about how well they can move the ball, and hopefully they can move the ball the same way they did last year in that playoff game. But I don't see it. But I'd have to say Bills, because I just think the firepower that they have and how consistent they've been to just dominate and put points on the board and get yards. Kansas City's defense is not built to match that. So the pressure is really on the D-line. The D-line, Chris Jones, D4, those guys got to get after it. If they can't get after it, you're going to see another 38-3 game again.
All right, just for argument's sake, I'm going to go Chiefs.
I got Chiefs.
Huh?
Why you got Chiefs?
Honestly, just so we're not 4 for 4 picking the same thing. But I don't know. I just feel like after last week, there might be a little I don't want to say hangover, but like, I just feel like the Chiefs will be better in the close game. I'll say that.
I would hope so, but they also have a short week too. That's the thing about it. Even though they played Monday and it was it came down to the end. It's just, what is that hangover? It can either help you or hurt you. If you're feeling confident that you pulled out a game like that, then yeah, it'll help you. But if you're feeling dead after that game, then you'll probably feel that effect for another week or two, because you spent so much time trying to win the game that now all of a sudden you're back at practice. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you travel Saturday and you're playing, Sunday. So it's just one of those things. Hopefully they get over it. Hopefully they're smart about this week and how they prepare. But if you got Chiefs, I just see Bills just because of how consistently since the first week they've just been putting up points. It seems like it. I know it's not effortless, but now it's no longer just Stephon Diggs. Like it used to be the offense, and then all of a sudden you have somebody else that's now playing well on the other side of him. And now Josh, you're seeing it. He's just throwing it up. I mean, he's not throwing it up there, but when he throws it, it ain't 14 that you see. You're seeing 13, and 13's getting yards. I think he's got more yards than Stephon yesterday, just because of he's taking the top off the defense. And if you can do that on the defense, it's really hard for a defensive coordinator in his mind to be able to say, hey, look, I can go man to man and go after the quarterback. If you're going man to man and you're not getting after the quarterback, you get scared. You don't want to play man to man because you don't want to take that risk. But it's going to come down to that for the Chiefs. They like to play man to man. So it's going to come down to that. They're going to see it. They're going to exploit it. And that's the thing that worries me about the Chiefs defense is they got a lot of young guys back there that haven't seen situations like that yet. And especially a high-powered offense, it just becomes hard. But hopefully they pull it out. There's going to be a learning experience where they finally turn the corner, but we'll see.
I just think, I don't know if the Bills have been smacked in the mouth yet this year. Have they been down? Because like the Chiefs we know can cut. I mean, they proved it last night, but like they've been doing that ever since Mahomes got there.
Well, if you watch the Miami game, if you go back and watch, there's a lot of plays. It's 90 plays. But if you go back and watch that, you can see how Miami really got after them. And the Bills were not used to somebody else punching them in the mouth, especially that early in the season, because that Monday night game, they killed it against Tennessee. They were just rolling. And they thought in their mind that's how it's supposed to be. And then all of a sudden the following week, now it's like, dang, we're in a dogfight. So if the Chiefs can have that mentality as far as let's put points on the board and let's just try and compete. Let's not worry about giving up plays and touchdowns. As long as our offense is playing well, let's try and play well ourselves and not worry about making a mistake. They get paid just like us. Just make sure we eliminate those big plays or not a bunch of big plays to where it comes down to, all right, if we had just done this right, we wouldn't have gave up that 40-yard bomb or we'd have given up that 50-yard touchdown. Trying to eliminate that and then make them try and move the ball down the field, 5 yards here, 7 yards here, get them into 3rd and 7s, get them into 2nd and long, stop the run. Those are the things that Chiefs defense has to understand. We got to do that, especially with this team. Devontae Adams was killing them yesterday, and he wasn't even doing it crazy, and it was just him. And they knew that, but you can't stop him. So now you got 2 guys. What are you going to do? You're going to go zone or you're going to go man? You're going to trust your guys that much to do it again? I just don't think so. So they'll try and keep everything in front of them, make him beat them going 80, 90 yards down the field, not just, all right, 2 plays, you move the ball, and then all of a sudden let's get a 50-yard shot touchdown. It's more so you got to earn everything and move it down the field. And can you do that 12 more times when you have the ball? Meaning you have 12 more possessions. Can you move the ball 80 yards 12 times, 70 yards again, 60 yards, 90 yards? Can you do those things? And that's what we're really going to see out of this game. We know the Chiefs can do that. Can the Bills do that? That's the question.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, it's going to be a good-ass game, though.
That would be really good. That definitely would be a good game. I liked the championship game last year. I thought it was a classic. I thought Josh Allen deserved to win it. That was my thing because he played lights out. I think it was probably one of the best performances of a quarterback in a playoff game that I have seen that lost. Like that's rare to see a quarterback play that well and still take the L. It's just Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. That's really what it came down to. If he didn't have Tyreek Hill, it'd probably be the Bills, and it'd probably be the Bills playing Cincinnati Bengals, basically, or not Cincinnati. It would probably been them playing the Rams.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. But like I said, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. As always, appreciate you coming on. We'll continue to do this throughout the year, and best of luck moving forward with JAA.
Oh man, we're rocking, man. We're rocking right now, man. We feel like the Bills. That's what I'll tell you that much. We feel like the Bills. It seems like every time we get the ball, we're scoring. It seems like we're on defense, we're getting turnovers. So these guys they're buying in, which is the most important thing. And all the stuff that have just talked about, that's what it comes down to. The culture of buying into the common goal. Like if you get everybody on the same page, it becomes easy to play. It becomes easy to compete because you guys are all going after the same thing and there's no individuals. And that's what we've been doing right now. We got on a 2-game winning streak. We should be on a 3, but it is what it is. We're going to run the table because now we got guys. We got guys that get it. We got guys that are having fun and our coach staff's having fun. And we're setting the standard. The standard is up here, man. This is not, you come here, you come to JA, it's not college. It is the NFL. Like we're putting those guys in that type of situation. They've never been exposed to that before. So that's why we're having the success we're having. It's no coincidence. We're putting up 50 points a game. And we're not playing Rudy Poot guys. It's just we know our stuff and those guys know their stuff. So we're getting it rolling, man. We got 4 more games left here. We're going to try and go 6-1, and then we got a bowl game, and then that'll close out that 2022 season and get ready for 23. I'm excited.
I'm kind of pissed. I'm gonna be down in the Tampa area next week.
You will?
Yeah. You guys don't have a game.
Yeah, we do. We're playing in Lakeland. Lakeland's probably
this coming week. I'll be down there. I'll be down there the 13th, and then we're leaving like the 21st, 22nd.
Dang, we play on the 22nd.
I know. That's why I was kind of pissed.
We play on the 22nd at 2:00. in Lakeland. And Lakeland's probably 30 minutes from Tampa, something like that, I believe.
Let me see if I can stay behind and just fly back.
I mean, I'm telling you, you don't like our. And we have our new jerseys. We haven't had our jerseys. Well, we've had the jerseys. It's just guys are small. Like they prefer smaller pants. So I was just like, all right, if you guys want smaller pants, I'll order smaller pants. And we just have to wait 2 weeks to wear our stuff. They said, all right, we're fine. So we get to unveil all our new stuff finally for this year. Our white jerseys first, and then the next week we'll have green and white, and then hopefully the bowl game, we'll see how it goes. But the guys don't know this yet, but we're going to be all black. So everybody gets to finally start seeing us, and how we represent ourselves. So you'll be the first one. If you do come out to the game, you'll see us in all white because that's what we're wearing. I've told the guys that already, but we're trying to be the Oregon of Jacksonville here. That's just what we're trying to do, man, because we want to have fun with this thing at the end of the day. So if you are free, come out.
I'll try to make it down there. I'll talk to you about it, but best of luck. And thanks again, man.
Yeah, no problem. This is fun.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
All right, you too.